I'm not going to introduce our speaker, but he's going to do something fun with you for 1 minute, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker, and I'm going to shut up. Hold your applause. So, Brian.
Hello. Thanks a lot, Keith. On your tables, I just want to start with an activity. There's an answer sheet. If you could grab one of those and a pen, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. All right, real quick. Answer sheet and a pen. If you would, just close your eyes. Close your eyes. Think on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, not very well. 10, feeling great. I want you to think about how you feel right now. Again, a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is not feeling very good. 10 is I'm feeling great. Give yourself a number right now. All right, open your eyes. And on that side of the sheet that has the answer sheet on it, the 1 through 5, you don't have to put it in one of those slots, but just write that number down somewhere. If it was a 10, great. If it was a 7, write that down. 4, 6, whatever it was. All right, go ahead, Keith. Thank you. Yep.
Dave wanted me to remind you, next month, February 5th, is the first Thursday. Just to mess you up, we're going the first Thursday in February. In March, April, May, we're going back to the second Thursday. So just follow your calendar, all right? You guys are sharp. You can handle this. I want to introduce Brian Udermann to you this morning. Brian is a health and motivational humorist who works with organizations to improve the health of their members, to increase productivity and overall happiness. According to his wife, Kari, Brian is nothing more than a well-educated redneck. Despite the 11 letters which follow his name, one for each year of higher education, he cannot hide his backwoods roots. While he has had more than 50 publications in scientific journals, he can be found most weekends wearing old camouflage clothes or sitting next to a hole in the middle of a frozen lake. He loves beef jerky, bit of honey, Diet Mountain Dew, ice cream pizzas, stuffing, and peanut M&Ms. You may have seen Brian on the Oprah Winfrey show. He was in the audience, 4 rows back on the left. You've heard about these guys. They are big Oprah Winfrey fans too, aren't they? Brian has been married to Carrie for 21 years, and they have 2 wonderful children and a 3rd child as well. Thank you. They also have a dog, Scout, affectionately known as the cutest dog in the world. Please welcome Brian Udermann.
Thank you, Keith. That was great. So yeah, before Keith said something to the effect of, things that you shouldn't buy your wife. My wife and I have been married for 21 years. We've been together for 23 years. I told Keith this earlier. My first Christmas present to her was a Ruger 10/22 with a nice little scope on it. And we still shoot squirrels with that 22 today. So I truly am kind of a redneck type of person. Just show you a couple of pictures. This first one, I think, is a picture of my kids. 3 boys, 15, 13, and 11 next week. And this was us earlier this year out on the ice catching a lot of panfish and a few bass. And this is a deer I shot with my bow last year. Yeah, it's a nice one. I'm not a big horn hunter, but if one walks by me, I will shoot it. I will probably be sitting in my tree stand bow hunting this afternoon. I hunt in a couple metro units and an urban hunt, and we have until the end of January to do that. So, with the introduction with Scout, the dog affectionately known as the cutest dog in the world, I feel like I'll stay away from that. I feel like I have to give him an introduction and talk about him a little bit. So this is Scout. He's a Cavachon. He's almost perfect. He's a Bichon. He's a cross between a Bichon and a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. He's almost perfect. He's small. He doesn't shed. He doesn't bark. He's hypoallergenic. One of our kids is allergic to dogs, and he sleeps with Scout almost every night. And he always, and I mean always, poops in the neighbor's yard. So he is amazing. No, he doesn't do that. My wife and I love to walk Scout, and we do it almost every day. And near our house, we live near La Crosse and on Alaska, we were walking this route, and when we first started walking this route, we came upon a sign And this is the sign. For those of you in the back, it says, "Walking of dogs prohibited on this property." And after we passed that sign a couple of times, we noticed Scout engaging in a particular behavior, so my wife snapped a picture, and here it is. He did not like that sign at all. And then I thought, well, he can be a little naughty. And then I thought, well, maybe when I was younger, I could be a little naughty as well. See if you can pick me out of my 3rd grade class picture. Yeah, and that was before Photoshop, so I got in a lot of trouble for that one. Anyway, I'm going to talk about work-life balance. I'm going to throw lots of things in about health. I'm going to talk about laughter and how that's important for you, or why it's important for you and your health. But sometimes when we hear people talk about health, it can be really overwhelming. It can be like standing under this waterfall with a little paper Dixie cup, you know, trying to get a drink of water. Because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well. I'll touch on that in a little bit. So really, if you can leave here today and just take one thing away, put it into practice in your life, with your family, with your job, whatever it is, this will have been a success. Also on your table, if you would find them right now, there's a little card. Go ahead, grab one of those cards, pass them out. There should be 7 or 8 on each table. It's an "I mean it this time" card. And on one side of the card, there's a white space right in the middle. At some point, tonight, tomorrow, next week, I would love for you to write something on that card. Be a little more active. Eat some more fruits and vegetables. Go to church more often. Whatever it is. Something that will improve your life. And again, I'll leave that up to you. Since there's health and medical related information in this presentation, I always feel like I have to give a disclaimer. So there it is. I hope you caught that. Quick activity. How many of you, by show of hands, think that health is important? Raise your hand high. Yeah, that's 100% of you. All right, everyone stand up. I just want you to respond to what I say. If you have exercised for 30 minutes, 5 out of the last 7 days, stay standing, if not, have a seat. If you've exercised for 30 minutes, 5 out of the last 7 days, stay standing, if not, have a seat. If you've eaten combined 4 or 5 fruits and vegetables, combined 4 or 5 fruits and vegetables, 4 out of the last 7 days, stay standing, if not, have a seat. If you have gotten 7 hours of sleep, 5 out of the last 7 nights, stay standing, if not, have a seat. Here's another one. In the last 7 days, if you have tried to solve problems more than you've complained about them, stay standing, if not, have a seat. Anyway, I'll just lose a few. Okay, look around. I just want to say, if you're still standing, you're probably doing a pretty good job, or you're what? Lying. Very good. Give them a hand. I love doing that activity because people think health is important, and it is, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. But many times our actions don't always correlate with that, and it's not about being perfect. I mean, I'm not perfect, no one in this room is perfect, but again, it's about making a decision and being committed to just doing something a little bit better. Again, a little more physical activity, getting an extra 30 minutes of sleep every night. Those small things can really, really add up for your health. I speak on this work-life balance topic a lot, and I'll just be honest with you, it's really hard to give specific recommendations because people are so different, and everyone's situations are different. Here's an example. How many of you have ever heard someone say, in regards to like work-life balance, you should leave work at work? You ever hear that? Raise your hand if you've heard that. Yeah, 90% of you. And that's not necessarily true for everyone. If you're the type of person, you leave at 5 o'clock, and you should leave work at work and not think about it or touch it again until 8 o'clock the next morning, that's great. Many times I do some work at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. I sometimes get up at 4:30 in the morning and do some work at home. This weekend I'll be with one of my kids at a basketball tournament all day Saturday, and I'm going to bring work. In between games I'll be doing work. But that works for me, it works for my wife, it works for our family. So you kind of have to figure that out on your own. And we'll talk about work-life balance more in just a bit. I do want to start by spending a few minutes on stress. Stress can be horrible for your health. Depending upon the resources that you read, journals and articles will say somewhere between 70 and 80% of the reasons people go to the doctor, some even say 85 to 90%, are somehow associated with stress. So I think it's important to spend a little bit of time on stress. So grab a pen or a pencil. You don't even have to if you don't want to, but here's what I want you to do. I just want you to work in groups of 2 or 3. We have to do this quick, don't have a lot of time, so let's do this in 2 minutes. I want you to think about and talk about with at least one other person 3 things that cause you stress at work and 3 things that cause you stress at home. Go. Okay, thank you for doing that. Let's kind of bring it back in. And I would love for some of you to share just a few of these. So raise your hand, I'll call on you, you can shout them out, but do it slowly because I want to do a demonstration to just give you a picture why stress is so bad for your body. So anyone willing to share just a few things that stress you out at work? Raise your hand if you would. Yes? Other people, yeah. Generally, I don't like people, so people stress me out. People, just kidding, people at work. So this is stress going into your body. This is a balloon. Something else at work that causes stress. Deadlines. So more stress in your body. Yeah, email, let's just say email. How about that? Email and phone calls. So you're having stress. And generally, you're not the type of person who deals with your stress or takes care of your stress. But let's say you go to the gym and you work out. So you relieve some stress, you feel better, and you go home and there's some stress at home. What are some stressors from home? Anyone? Raise your hand. Finances? Yeah, that's huge. Another one? Your wife. I didn't say that. My wife is amazing. So, let's say kids, all right? Yeah. Can I get a couple more?
Mechanical breakdown.
Yeah, stuff at home there. The car breaks down, the furnace goes out. So this is, again, more stress going into your body, work stress, life stress, and it's accumulating like the air is accumulating in this balloon. One more. Neighbors. My neighbors are great, by the way. So what's happening? Yeah, it's going to blow, and I'm going to pop it. Can I do that? Yeah. It won't. Okay, so literally, it'll build, and it'll build, and it'll build, and then something happens. Maybe it's a panic attack, maybe it's an anxiety attack, maybe it's a cardiovascular event, a heart attack. Stress can be damaging to your body, to your health, to your immune system. Studies have shown that when people are under tremendous amounts of stress, like college students during finals week, their white blood cell counts can diminish by like 40 or 50%. When adults, married people go through a divorce, this is another example, studies have shown that their white blood cell count, very vital for your immune function, can diminish by 30 or 40 or 50%. So learn to deal with your stress. And I have a slide up here with a couple of pictures. Someone's exercising, meditating, hanging out with their dog, and reading. Really, you have to figure out what works for you. My wife is the type of person who could grab a book and melt into a couch when she's stressed out for 5 hours. She would love that. If I grabbed a book when I was stressed out, sat down on the couch, within 5 minutes, I would be more stressed out. So I climb up into a tree and I sit there and I watch the birds and the squirrels and the deer or whatever. Stress is gone. So you have to kind of figure that out for yourself. All right. So I want to talk about laughter a little bit. This is very important. This is probably one of the biggest ways other than spiritual things that I help keep balance in my life. So I can talk about the benefits of laughter. It improves our mood. When we're in a group of people like this and we're laughing together, it can help build social connections. It can go on and on and on. It can improve our health. If you laugh on a consistent basis and you have a great sense of humor, you have lower blood pressure, all kinds of things. And laughter and having a good sense of humor really can have a tremendous impact on your health. My wife and I have been married for 21 years. Be very honest with you, the first 2 years were incredibly hard, incredibly difficult, to the point where I really thought we were going to separate and get a divorce. At the end of those 2 years, we decided to do two things. Start going to church. We had stopped going to church. I grew up, been in church my whole life. And so we started that again. That was very impactful. And the other thing we did is we started incorporating, this is true, laughter and humor into our lives every single day. We would laugh at our kids, or we would watch programs that were funny on TV. We would listen to, Christian comedians, whatever it was. We still do this 21 years later, or 20 years later, whatever it is. Last night, put our kids to bed, 9 o'clock. Again, they're 15, 13, and 11. A lot of times it's 8:30, but last night it was 9 o'clock. We made a big bowl of popcorn. We sat down and we watched a TV show. We watched, last night it was Big Bang Theory. Anyone ever watch that show? Yeah, love it. So we used to have Netflix. We've gone through every episode of almost every show you can imagine. Cheers, Seinfeld, Frasier, Parks and Recreation, anything that's funny, we try to do that on a daily basis. So I knew we were in trouble. This is a picture of one of our wedding engagement photos. And one day at the end of that 2-year period, I knew we were in trouble because I turned the page and this is what the picture looked like. This is probably my favorite wedding picture of us. And I turned the page in that album, and this is what I looked like in that picture. So, again, I knew something had to be done, and that's what we did. And I encourage people to search out humor in places that maybe you wouldn't think you could find humor. And here's an example. I go to church almost every week, and I try to, anybody else go to church? I try to pay attention to the sermons and the messages. I truly do. Every once in a while, my ADD kicks in and I got to do something, so I read the bulletin. And this was floating around the internet a couple years ago. I thought it was kind of funny. Things found in church bulletins. The sermon this morning, Jesus walks on the water. The sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. Potluck supper, Sunday at 5 p.m. Prayer and medication to follow. The ladies of the church have cast off clothing of every kind. They may be seen in the basement on Friday afternoon. My favorite, low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. Ladies, last one. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Bring your husbands. And I'm a church-going person, a spiritual person, so sometimes, I laugh at religious type jokes, all kinds of religious jokes. Here's one. Rabbi Schwartz answers his phone. Hello, is this Rabbi Schwartz? It is. This is the IRS. Can you help us? I can. Do you know a Sam Cohen? I do. Is he a member of your congregation? He is. Did he donate $10,000? He will. So again, I encourage you to search out humor in places you might not think. I was preparing for a talk probably a year ago now, maybe 2 years ago, and we were at our kitchen table. I'll never forget this, and I just started looking at engagement photos, wedding engagement pictures that were published in the paper, and my kids were with me, and we started finding some really funny ones, and here are a couple. Hunt, capture, more bacon, gory, butcher, hardy har, poor sap, crap beer. I gave a talk about a month ago somewhere in Wisconsin, and someone in the audience said, those people are from my hometown. So these people are from Wisconsin. And my favorite, long wee wee. My wife was like, you cannot use that in a presentation. I'm like, honey, it was in the paper, you know. Here's a classified ad. Full-size mattress, Royal Tonic, 20-year warranty, like new, slight urine smell. $40, only $40. So like, in the morning, I get up and my kids get up and we're like fighting for the paper, honestly, to try and find funny things in the newspaper. Laughing at your family is always great for us. My wife and I was going to mention this before. How many of you keep a humor log or a file? One person? Two? Okay, a few of you, not very many. This would be a recommendation. I have a physical file. If I have, find something that's really funny, like a joke or a picture, or I will make a copy of that and I'll put it in that file. I have something on my computer, like a humor file, so if somebody sends me something funny, I'll throw it in there. If I'm having a really rough day, honestly, I will take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and I'll pull out that file, or I'll open up that file on my computer and I'll just spend some time laughing. One of the things my wife and I did many, many years ago, we started keeping a log of family humor. So something happens with one of our kids, it's very funny, we write it down. Again, we're having a little struggle sometime, every once in a while we'll pull out that file and we'll go through it, and it's awesome. One of the stories in there is of this young lad. This is Zach, he's now 15, he's bigger than me. And one morning, I spent hundreds, if not thousands, of mornings with my kids in this canoe over the last 12 or 13 years. But we were out fishing one morning. This was springtime. I think it was May, near La Crosse, and the perch were spawning, and they were biting. So he had one of those little Snoopy rods, you know. He was sitting in the canoe. I was sitting next to him. I wasn't even fishing. I'd put a minnow on. He'd throw it over. The little slip bobber would go down. The bobber would go down. He'd set the hook, pull it up. I'd take the perch off, put it in the basket, put a minnow on, put it down. This was going on for about, 30, 40 minutes. Just constant, nonstop, one after another. The kind of thing you want when you have a kid out fishing. So he stops at one point and he goes, you know, Dad, I think he's 5, maybe 6 at the most. He goes, you know, Dad, it's just really good to be able to provide for the family. 6-year-old kid. And I was like, oh, I wonder where he heard that from. You know, me telling my wife that. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, buddy. Just keep fishing. And, so we fished for about another 10, 15 minutes. Same thing. He was just bringing them in one right after another. And then he stops and he said, you know, Dad, I'm really blessed. True story. He said, I'm really blessed. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. What a mature little kid. I thought he was going to say, I'm really blessed because you're such a great dad. What he said was, I'm really blessed as a great fisherman. He was doing nothing but setting the hook and reeling. And then he said, this is the best part, you know, Dad, you're probably blessed at something. We just haven't figured out what it is yet. So anyway, you can get lots and lots of fun and laughter and humor from your family. Here's another thing that I love to tell people. Make things interesting and fun. So sometimes I do stuff like this. I used to teach college classes with my students. Maybe I have a staff meeting where I want to share some information with people. And I just want to give you a sample of this. So grab that answer sheet again, the 1 through 5. I'm going to ask you 5 very easy health-related questions. I feel confident most of you will get them all right. They're just true or false questions. So here's the first question. True or false? Americans have more free time today than they did in 1965. If you think that's true, put a T at number 1. You think it's false, put an F. True or false? Americans have more free time today than they did in 1965. Who says false? Raise your hand. Yeah, most of you. So the answer will come up on the upper right-hand portion of your screen. It's actually true. Americans have more free time today than they did in 1965. Yeah, that's pretty amazing because if you ask the average person, how are you doing? They'll say, I'm so busy, I'm so hectic, life is so crazy. Well, there are people who study this and they say we have somewhere between 5 and 6 hours more free time per week today than we did 40 or 50 years ago. Someone will always ask, how do you define free time? We could get into the specifics of the study, but we don't need to. Here are a few things to consider. The average American watches how many hours of TV a day? 3.5, just a little bit more. 4. Is TV free time? Yes. I saw a study last year that said the average adolescent, 13, 14, 15-year-old, spends 7.5 hours a day in front of screens. So it could be a computer, it could be a TV, it could be their phone, it could be their iPod, it could be their iPad or whatever, 7.5 hours. Okay, so average American watches 4 hours of TV a day. That's free time. Do we get married earlier in life or later in life today? Later in life, maybe a little more free time. Do we have more children or fewer children today? Fewer children, a little more free time. It's snowing right now. I'm going to drive home and I'm going to shovel like 100 feet of sidewalk and a big driveway with a shovel. 9 out of 10 of my neighbors have what? Snow blowers. It's going to take me an hour and a half to do what will take them maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So technology can save you time. How many of you cut wood for your parents? Yeah, like some of us are a little bit older. How many of you did it without a chainsaw? A saw or an axe, or yeah, now you get a chainsaw out there and save a lot of time. So again, 5 to 6 hours more free time today per week than we did 40 or 50 years ago. Number 2, true or false? Covering the wart with duct tape will usually make it go away. Anyone say true? Yeah, look at that, like 30% of you. It actually is true. How many of you have tried this? Raise your hand. Very good. For those of you who raised your hand, did it work? Raise your hand. Again, yes, probably 60% of you, and that's what the research shows. This is interesting. Maybe 10 years ago, a big study came out. It compared duct tape to the freezing the wart out, and a couple other things in doctors' offices. The results showed that using duct tape was actually better. So in the medical community, all up in arms. Since then, a bunch of studies have come out and have showed that duct tape is not necessarily any better, but it's not necessarily any worse. So 60 to 70% of the time, you put duct tape on your wart will go away. Got to keep it on there consistently. Got to do it right. Usually it takes 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. But I've had people in these presentations say, yeah, last week I went to my dermatologist to get a wart burned off, and they just sent me home and said, just use duct tape. So why does it work? No one really knows. Might be because you occlude the wart. Air, oxygen's not getting there. Probably not the case, because you could do that with a lot of things. So people now think it's the adhesive and the chemicals in the duct tape cause an autoimmune reaction in the body that attacks the wart and eventually gets rid of it. One of the things we do as a family is we drive around and take pictures of things that have duct tape on them. You see it all over the place. There's a trailer light, a mailbox. Going to the Y one day, we had to take a picture of that. That's a storefront window in La Crosse, a bird nest. We did a vacation in Colorado this past summer on some of our friends. The bird nest fell off of the awning there, so they put it back together with duct tape. There's a urinal, a car, another car bumper, another bumper. You see these all over the place, side window. This one was actually at my church. I drive by this one to work every day. So I'm seeing all this. This is my neighbor. This was at a school one time. So I thought, I haven't been doing a good job of saving for my kids' college education. So a business idea popped into my head. If you can't read it in the back, Brian's duct tape auto body. If you trust it, we'll tape it. Most repairs under $100. See it all the time. All right, next question. True or false? Individuals who multitask are more productive than non-multitaskers. Who says true? Yeah, a few of you. Who says false? I think that might be the right answer. So, very interesting. This has been in the media a lot. A lot of research has been done on this in the last 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years. For the most part, we're really good at doing one thing at a time. We're much more productive when we focus on one thing at a time. So if that's you trying to produce something, write something, create a report for work or whatever it is, focus on that one thing. So it's not really multitasking. If you're working on the report and you answer an email, then you answer a text from your wife or your kid or your boss, you're really task switching from one task to another to another. Much more productive. And again, research is pretty clear on this. If you focus on one thing at a time, you're more productive. Some people are better than others at multitasking. How many of you think you're kind of okay at multitasking? Raise your hand high. Probably 15 of you. Research shows that if you think you're good at multitasking, you're not very good at multitasking. I think that's really funny. But anyway, some people are a little bit better at multitasking than others. Here's an activity for you. I want you to do this. Don't talk out loud, but I want you to do it in your head. Read this sentence, if you can. It might be tough in the back. Read this sentence in your head and say the alphabet at the same time. I'll give you 5 seconds. Read this sentence, say the alphabet in your head, go. Okay, I know for a fact some of you were able to do that. Probably 10% of you. Raise your hand if you could do that. 1, 2, yeah, there's probably 40 of you. Now I want you to do this. Read the sentence again and say the alphabet in your head backwards. I really want you to try it if you were able to do that. Go. Alright, yeah, so most people say, I can't even say the alphabet backwards, much less trying to read something. Was anyone able to do that second task? Raise your hand. A couple people, very good. Very, very, very rarely will I find people be able to do that. And the point is, it's tougher, and when tasks, things that you're doing become more complex, then your productivity even decreases more. All right, another question. Eating turkey makes you drowsy. This is another one, kind of easy. True or false? Eating turkey makes you drowsy. So, answer is obviously what? True. Oh no, it's false. Sorry. So it really is. Don't get mad at me, but what's that evil stuff in turkey? Tryptophan. Yeah, tryptophan is an amino acid. It causes you to become drowsy. And honestly, if you get enough tryptophan in your body, it could potentially make you drowsy. You would have to eat somewhere between 12 and 15 pounds of turkey to get enough tryptophan to make you drowsy. So there's as much tryptophan in things like eggs and fish and cheese and beans as there is in turkey. I'll say that again. There's as much tryptophan in things like eggs and cheese and fish and beans as there is in turkey. Yeah, so I was going to say, when was the last time you heard somebody say, oh, really tired, I just ate a bunch of beans? Probably never. Anyone Irish in the audience? I always have to share this joke because it's one of my son's favorites. The perfect number of beans to put in an Irish bean soup. Anyone know? 0. What? 200 what? 239. 239, that's exactly right. Because anything else would be too farty. I know, it's bad. It's my kid's favorite joke. So, why does turkey get such a bad rap? Football, I'll get to that. Yeah, you eat so much. You eat like 3 or 4 plates like that, plus a bunch of other stuff, and then you unbutton your pants, and then you eat another plate, and then you waddle over to the couch when you're done. You sit down and you watch what? Football. 15 minutes later, you're like, you're out. Hour and a half later, you wake up and you're like, oh, it's the turkey. Yeah, it's really not. On an average day, we in this country consume about 2,500 calories. That's everybody combined, men and women. On an average day, Thanksgiving Day, that's more like 4,500, maybe closer to 5,000 calories a day. So again, that certainly will make you drowsy. Last question, I believe. True or false? Swallowing gum is dangerous and should be avoided. How many of your parents told you this? And they said, if you swallow that gum, it'll stay in your stomach for how long? 7 years. That's exactly right. Answer is false. So, it's Rich, right? Give him a hand. You got one right. Anyone get them all wrong? Raise your hand. Right, thanks for being honest. So, gum is primarily fiber. If you chew a piece of gum and you swallow it, for the most part, your body's not even going to break it down all that much. I've heard people say in audiences like, oh yeah, I found, gum in my kids' diapers or in their stool or whatever. But your body will break it down a little bit, but it's primarily fiber. So it doesn't stay in your stomach for 7 years or 7 months or 7 days. More like 12 or 13 or 14 hours, and you're going to pass that up. I'll be honest, there's been a couple of cases in the medical literature where young kids have swallowed gum, like lots of it. Like you have a 5-year-old kid who swallowed 6 pieces of gum. In many of these cases, they swallow something else. Like one case was like 5 pennies. So now you got 5 or 6 pieces of gum and some marbles or some pennies. Then it can kind of get lodged and clogged up down in your intestines, and surgeons have to go in and remove that. But you're chewing a piece of gum, maybe 2 pieces of gum, you're going into a presentation or a meeting, or you can swallow it. It's not going to hurt you at all. But I would just caution you, if you swallow some gum and then you go to the gym and you participate in one of those exercise classes, it can get to be a little messy. One of my favorite pictures of all time. All right, close your eyes. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not being very good, 10 being really good, pick a number of how you feel right now. Open your eyes. I want you to write that number down next to the first number you wrote, somewhere on that sheet. And I want to ask you, for how many of you did that number increase? Raise your hand. Yeah, probably 85% of you. And I'm not even a funny person. Honestly, I'm not all that funny, but this is a little tiny bit of humor, how that can impact your health. And I use, again, humor and laughter a lot, both at home and in the workplace, to help with my work-life balance. All right, add up your score. Anyone get 5 out of 5? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. All right, I will tell you this. I wrote a book a couple years ago. It's called 25 Ways to Cure the Hiccups, Uncovering the Truth Behind 101 Common Myths and Misconceptions. For those of you who got 5 out of 5 on the quiz, I'll give you a free copy of that. So, congratulations. Give them a hand. If you're at all interested, the book is for sale on Amazon. It's like 13 bucks. If you buy, I brought a box of books today. I'll sell them for 10. If you buy 1, you get it for 10 bucks. If you buy 2, I'll come to your house and I'll read it to you. But any of the profits from the book sales, I will donate back to Leading with Power. So I have a box of them. I don't want to bring them home. Any of the profits will go back to keep in the organization. All right, a couple ideas. I've got about 5 to 6 minutes yet, and then I'll wrap it up. In regards to work-life balance, I would encourage you to try and say no more often. How can you do that at home? One thing my wife and I have done is we've started saying no more often to our kids. Honestly, I think we pay too much attention to our kids, and I think we worry way, way, way too much about our kids' happiness. So we've started saying no more to our kids, and they're absolutely fine with that. So that's at home. At work, honestly, when I'm not speaking, I work at a university, super busy, and right now I'm working on 4 or 5 big projects. I have on my to-do list 3 or 4 big projects. If my boss comes to me, I have an amazing supervisor, he is awesome, and he says, I have an idea, I think you should do this. I will say, all right, here's what I've got lined up, here's what I'm working on right now. I won't say no, I'll say here's what I'm working on, here's what I'm going to be working on next month. Where should this fit in the picture? Should I stop working on one of my projects? Should I put it on top of the list of what I'm going to do next month? But that has really made a tremendous impact on what I do and my productivity at work. Another thing, laugh more. I think hopefully you feel, most of you do, a little bit better. Somehow try to find a way to incorporate more laughter and humor into your life. Focus on your health. Again, use that little card. Maybe it's a little more physical activity. Maybe it's thinking about your stress. Maybe it's about more laughter. Maybe it's about whatever it is, eating 1 more fruit or vegetable a day. The sleep is huge. A lot of people struggle with their sleep. So if you could figure out a way to get 30 or 60 minutes more sleep every night, that would have a great impact on your health. Recognize God's presence. This for me is huge. I write down when things happen in my life, I wish I would have started this 20 years ago. If you don't do this, I would encourage you to do it. If something happens and you think, oh, you know what? God was present there. God was in my midst. Write it down. Here's a couple of examples. Anything from little things, I don't write all the little things down, but to big things. So last night, we had to go pick up one of my kids. He was at a practice. We were running kind of late. Wanted to go to a Dick's store, buy a pair of sneakers for another kid. Pulled into the parking lot. Very front parking spot in front of the door was wide open. And I think, wow, that's, I filled my truck up this morning to come here. Is that half a tank of gas? Big truck, $20. I was like, praise God for that. Last month, here's a great example. Last month, I was driving to Minneapolis to do some speaking in Phoenix. Flight from La Crosse to Minneapolis to Phoenix, $950. Flight from Minneapolis to Phoenix, $150. So I got a hotel room for $100 because the flight left early in the morning. The flight was $150, $250, a little bit of gas, saved me a lot of money. I'm driving 8 o'clock at night to Minneapolis in my truck. Roads were crystal clear, not raining, not snowing, nothing. And going 70 miles an hour in Minnesota freeway, 70 miles an hour, talking to my dad on the phone. And on the other lane, I noticed snow blowing over the lane. And I thought in my brain, slow down. So I was about to take my foot off the accelerator. I'm in the right lane. And before I knew it, I'm fishtailing through the left lane. I'm going into the ditch on the left side, and I correct. My dad's talking the whole time. He has no idea this is going on. So I correct. I'm now fishtailing through the left and the right lane back to the other side. All the anti-slip lights are blinking, and the alarms are going off. I'm hitting little sections of tar, so I'm like bouncing. I thought best case scenario, you go in the ditch and your travel plans are ruined. Worst case scenario, you hit some tar and you roll and you're dead. And I've never been so scared in my life. It all took like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. And I was doing this all with one hand, jumping, bouncing around. My dad just kept talking and talking and talking and talking, and he can't hear, so he talks really loud. And I get back on the road, I'm going straight, my heart's racing like 150 miles an hour. And I said, Dad, yeah, love talking to you, gotta go. And we stopped our conversation, turned on the radio. It was on a Christian station, and the song that was playing was "You Are Not Alone." Yeah, Jesus taking wheel, that's what you're gonna say. That was my bro. But I'm like, it was amazing. I'm not kidding you. Turn the radio on, and within seconds, this song was playing. You are not alone. I could give you example after example after example. This summer, my 15-year-old was cutting our grass. We live on like 3/4 of an acre, 2 lots in the city, and we have push mowers. And my wife and I bought a Honda self-propelled mower. Would never buy a lawnmower like that, just way too expensive, but it was a fundraiser for our kids' school, so we bought it. And he was out mowing 3-inch, 4-inch stump, that big, and my 15-year-old goes right over the top of it with this $450 mower, and sure enough, he hits the stump, and we take it to our lawnmower guy. The lawnmower guy's like, it's ruined. Like, I can fix it, but it's going to cost like $450. You might just go buy a new one. So we had 2 lawnmowers. It's not like, well, we'll just do it with one. We'll rotate sections of the yard. And 3 days later, my wife and I had our dog out on a walk, 2-story. It's a lawnmower on the side of the road. Our neighbors were throwing away because it had a busted handle. Handle had cracked, And took it to our lawnmower guy. He gave it to his welder guy, and he changed spark plug or whatever. It was a self-propelled mower. $25, we had a new lawnmower. I write stuff like that down all the time. And big things. I'll share this with you, not to boast or brag in any way, but how God can sometimes kind of poke you a little bit. I mean, 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, my church, we built a new building, probably 12 years ago, had like $3 million, the building was, we still had like $1 million worth to pay on the mortgage. And our church wanted to do a special contribution to try and pay off the mortgage. And my wife and I have been at churches many, many years, always done special big contributions that don't really stress us out at all. And I have a discretionary account, or we do, where we throw money in there if we make extra money or whatnot. Sometimes that builds up, and it was at the point where it was big. It was there was $8,500, and not even our savings account. This is just a discretionary account if you wanted to go on a big vacation or something. It maybe took 18 months to build to that point. Someone said the challenge came out from our church for this special contribution to pay our building off. And someone suggested that we give, if we could, 17 times our monthly offering. I'm sitting in church during the sermon. When I first heard that, I thought, what's our monthly offering? I multiplied that by 17. What do you think the exact number was? $8,500. I'm not kidding you. How long do you think I had to think about it before I wrote that check? I didn't at all. I mean, that was God's presence, and He has blessed us many, many times over for doing that. All right, it's 1 o'clock. I am done. You know what? If you flip that sheet over, there's an evaluation on the back, but I just want to do one final activity. Literally, it'll take 3 or 4 seconds. So if you would, stand up. Stretch your hands above your head. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And clap your hands really fast and really loud for 10 seconds. Go, go, go. All right, that's it. Thanks for the standing ovation. If you could complete that evaluation on the back, that would be great. I'm going to hang around. I'll be here for as long as you guys want to be here. There are books over here if you want to buy one, $10. Again, all the profits will go back to Leading with Power. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.